In this video, we are going to determine if the Amethyst accessories are of important significance.
7K dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to talk about the new Amethyst accessories and evaluate this entire event, so do listen on. You can only get the Amethyst rings and earrings by trading in Amethyst shards obtained from Accessory Raid Level 8 and Heavenly Stairs. You need 10 shards for each, which means you need a total of 40 shards because you can only get 2 of each via synthesis. So the debatable issue about this event is that to even clear the raid, you do need to be very well equipped to withstand Demon of Destruction's attacks. There is a huge difference not only in his damage and HP but also his skills, which means you do need specific traits and guild buffs to take him down fast before he overwhelms you. The importance of a level 50 plus 10 Velika is also crucial. I have heard of Velikas who are level 50 plus 6 who still have issue in terms of damage output. All these seem to point to the conclusion that only veterans or endgame players can benefit from this event, obtain these accessories and potentially widen the player gap. But is this really the case? I want to evaluate this through a few important questions. Do you really even need these accessories? What is Netmarble's intention with this event? I want to also give some ideas on how Netmarble can make all players, especially newer players, feel included. Firstly, do you really need these accessories? You need to understand that these accessories cannot be used as substats, which means there is no way this can become 15%, 16% or even 18%. Netmarble has limited the use of these accessories to only act as base accessories, so you can only build substats on it and not the other way around. I want to focus on the Amethyst ring first. It increases crit damage by 14%, and since it can only be used as a base accessory, it behaves in the same way as the regular crit damage ring of 10%, which most players use as the base with Isabella's illusion as the substat. But will this 4% difference make a huge difference in terms of scoring? Let's take a look. I will use level 7 accessory raid as a base test with just Lina and Chloe on the team. I'm going to use the 10% regular crit damage accessory here. After applying the buffs and debuffs, Velika's bottom skill dealt 2056957. Now what if I apply Lina's buff of 100%? She now deals 2629174. Take note, I have also noted Pascal's HP at which she used these attacks because we must not forget that there is also a lethal damage multiplier at work here. So we need to compare damage output when the HP values are close. I will talk about this in a whole separate video. Repeating the run again, you will realize Velika gives the same numbers. Now swapping over to the 14% Amethyst crit damage accessory, apply all the same buffs and debuffs and observe the first skill. The first skill alone already shows an increase in damage of 2086240. After Lina's buff, the skill does 2660950. Repeating a second round and we get the same values. So let's put all the two set of values side by side. Here's the absolute damage difference and here's the actual percentage increase. Before any significant crit damage buffs, the Amethyst crit damage ring increases Velika's damage output by a small 1.42%. But after the significant crit damage buff by Lina, you realize that the actual impact of the Amethyst ring becomes even smaller to about 1.21%. And of course this is due to the law of diminishing returns, where the more you add to a certain factor, the less impact it will have. So I think with these values you can see how much the actual impact is with just 4% of crit damage under different circumstances. So the conclusion is that the Amethyst ring is not a must get and certainly will not affect any of your runs in a significant way. Now for the Amethyst earring, this accessory offers a brand new substat in the entire game, and that is lethal damage. I think this is an accessory that will make a difference in terms of damage output, especially for Shane, who already has her own crit damage buff. But then again, think about where Shane is used now. Probably in Guild Raid and Guild Dungeon only. Then think deeper about these two modes. Prior to the introduction of this accessory, Shane already had no issues soloing dragons and Gyarados in Guild Raid. For Guild Dungeon, this accessory could potentially save players some runs for trickier flaws, but mainly for competitive purposes. So the Amethyst Earring really only benefits the competitive Guild Dungeon scene, and if your guild isn't as competitive, then you can still get by very well even without this Amethyst Earring. Basically, it isn't necessary and life-changing for any routine progress. And I mean, since this is a base accessory itself, even veterans have to rebuild it with all the Isabella's illusions in the world for it to be usable, so that is another random factor to consider. Then the next question, why did Netmarble have this even to begin with? According to Dev Kagura's notes, he did talk about letting older players and players who put in more effort to get better rewards, and I think this event could be an example of those plans. But to be fair, they did recently do a Great Winter Dungeon event which was catered for all players, and that also gave fantastic rewards. So it's not completely true that Netmarble only caters to older players. And instead of feeling left out and angry and salty, I think if players adopt a more positive attitude and see this as a reason to get stronger, that would benefit you a lot. Furthermore, these challenges should provide you with a direction of what you should be focusing on. If you still think that PvP is far more important to focus on, no one is stopping you, but do know that the same amount of resources you use for your PvP team can also be used for your PvE units, which can further get you the equipment you need. And lastly, how can Netmarble tweak future events to better involve more players? The reality of any game is that endgame PvE bosses were never meant for new players and returning players to casually battle and win. But I think Netmarble could improvise on that part. Keep the tough bosses, but also provide a lower difficulty level so that more players can take part, and of course different difficulties should have different drop rates of whatever new currency they want to introduce. So in this case, maybe also extend the possibility to get Amethyst shards in Accessory Raid Level 7, but of course readjust the drop rates accordingly. Another way without making lower drop rates would be to make a secondary currency for the easier difficulty, like maybe Amethyst stones, which will then be traded in for shards, and then finally the accessory. In that way, the feeling of reward is not hampered, but the process is slightly longer for those who attempt the easier boss. Or completely change the style of play such that event currencies are given based on the total amount of damage a player can do, so that every player, new or old, will be rewarded. Coupled with that, provide an event shop with different things to buy such that players actually have to consider what is more useful for them depending on their level of progress. This is where opportunity cost kicks in, and also more mindful and active playing can happen. I hope that with this event, Netmarble can see from their data how many players actually cleared and farmed in Accessory Raid Level 8 and tweak future events to allow greater play. So after watching this video, the conclusion for the event and the accessories is that they are good to have but not necessary to own. Once again, they are strictly only for competitive PvE, and if your account isn't even at that level of competitive play, then please don't feel bad and angry. If you found this video useful, do give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more guides. Thank you so much and see you!